All right. Welcome to the apocalypse, the facilitators apocalypse. We're actually going to start with an exercise first as we wait for everyone to join. So if we've shared the mural link, if everyone could join the mural, that would be great. And then as you join, we'd love for you to use the blue sticky dots in the upper left-hand corner of the mural. You can Control C and Control V to create additional Post-its, but go ahead and click into the Post-its and start adding your own facilitation apocalypse scenarios from this year or last year, if you like. So what I'm gonna have you guys do is I'll summon you all to where I am in the agenda, just to give you guys a quick highlight of what we're going to be doing today. So what you've already started is the introductions and the apocalypse scenarios exercise. And now I'm going to give you kind of a quick overview of like, well, what inspired this conversation. One of the things that Aki, Kandis, and Dan will do is start grouping categories in the lower part of the exercise. As I have this conversation with you guys. And then the next step we're going to do is vote on the different categories. Following that, Kandis will then talk about this concept of control, what is in our control as facilitators, what is out of our control as facilitators. And then once we identify what is out and in our control, what actions we can actually take. And then we'll close it out. So a very quick, but hopefully fun experience for you all, and hopefully a lot of learning, not only between the crowdsourced information you guys provide, but also we'll share some of the recommendations. So why did this come up? This year has been a huge year for us, and it's been very busy. And we've had, as we've sat back, as we always do, to reflect on the year, as I go down from the agenda, we had a couple different types of apocalypses that we've experienced in the last 2 years. One was the zombie apocalypse, facilitation apocalypse. That was the internet, the printer, the projector, the conference room, power plugs, nothing works, right? We've been planning this for weeks. A snafu happens. So we have three facilitators supposedly in 3 conference rooms with 25 people each. And when we get there, we have 75 people in one room. We've run out of snacks. The air conditioning has gone out and people have stopped being civilized. No one makes sense anymore. And it's officially the zombie apocalypse, right? Another second example was we were in another facilitation situation where it was the rapture. It was little or no engagement in chat. It was a purely digital, virtual facilitation experience. And even though we set the expectations with the proxy and the executive sponsor, it was unclear if they actually set those expectations with anyone that came to the workshop. It is very clear that the content and the approach that we recommended and provided is not working. And then slowly we start feeling the shame and the guilt and the blame for the workshops not going well. And slowly participants start disappearing from our in this case, it was a 3-week facilitation workshop. So that was the rapture, if you're familiar with that context. The last one we call the extinction level event. We agreed to do a pure facilitation workshop where we don't own any of the content. We don't own any of the agenda. We're just there to guide the conversation. And this facilitation workshop, it was about 5 weeks long, 5 hours a day, Monday through Friday. For me, it started at, I think, 4:30 my time, virtual workshops. And over 100 people are invited every single day, and 40 to 80 people start showing up daily. So only a handful of people participate. And as days progress, we know that this is the beginning of the end of the workshop. So those were kind of like our inspirations for creating this zombie apocalypse. So thanks for that. Just wanted to give you that quick introduction. All right. So now I see that there's all these great categories that have been provided. So the categories we have are misalignment and goals and outcomes, technology connection mishaps, having the wrong people in the room, cats, like laser cats, people not showing up, remote facilitation challenges. Is that actually an acronym for something? You can put it in chat if you like. Offline distractions, managing participation levels, planned agendas, not what participants expect, exactly. Aligning diverse participants. Oh, that's a really interesting one, especially when we talk about the future of collaboration, which is a topic that we know and love, and how that's really about belonging and making sure everyone has a voice and everyone's included. The behavior of the workshop attendees, and then not prepared the tech correctly. So what I'm going to do is give you guys a quick voting session, and go ahead and take the dots. You can take 2 dots, 2 blue dots in the upper left-hand corner of the categories. And I'll give you 3 minutes to vote on the categories that are the most painful and most impactful to you. So it looks like from a voting standpoint, misalignment in outcomes is a big one. Having the wrong people in the room is a big one. Those are the top 2 that I see so far. Kate, I want to give you a voice. Is there anything else that you would like to vote on or share? And you're on mute right now if you want to.
Sorry, yeah, no, the misalignment on goals and outcomes, and then diverse participants. Yeah, I think it's just generally like the lack of participation, you know, or enthusiasm, not just participation.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Great. So these are some of the categories. There's definitely a lot more out there, but I'm glad we were able to align and connect on this. And with that, what I'll do is hand it over to Kandis, who will talk about control.
I keep thinking about that Janet Jackson song, Control. So guys, what we're going to ask you to do now that we've got some categories and we've identified the categories that we believe are most challenging based on our facilitation experience, we want to go to the upper right side of the board. And so if you take us there, thank you, Dan, because you're in control. What I would love you guys to do is looking at the categories we've identified. Can you identify which of these categories you believe are in your control and which you believe are out of your control? And on some of them, you might think, well, some things are in my control, but some things I think might not be in any specific category. But try to get as granular as you can about what's in or out of your control. So we're going to spend, let's take 3 minutes and capture your thoughts about what you're in control of and what you're not. And you can refer back to the categories that we looked at or we created prior. So people voted on technology or connection mishaps, lots of votes on misalignment and goals and outcomes as well. Remote or facilitation challenges, no-shows, lack of participation, aligning diverse participants. All of these got some votes. I'm surprised cats got no vote. And that wasn't an acronym. Somebody mentioned that their cat was helping wreak havoc while they were trying to facilitate a workshop. And I believe that cats are always trouble. They are the harbingers of the apocalypse, in my opinion. All right, so let's look at what people shared as, thanks everyone. Let's see what people shared as in their control or out of their control. So out of control, technology or connection mishaps, offline distractions, cats, you can't control them, participant knowledge on tools and tech availability, the bandwidth of participants, whether both technical, so whether they have great internet connection or energy, participants insisting on multitasking, the behavior of participants, no-shows, we've got 2 no-shows, and network connectivity as all areas that are out of our control. Anybody disagree with elements of this list? Are there any elements where people think, actually, I do think this could be in our control?
I would
Hi,
say, oh, go on, sorry, go on, you go for it, Helen. Hey,
just
Helen, by the way.
hello. The technology mishaps, and when we first started using Mural, we, depending on the importance of the meeting and the topic, we sometimes ran preview sessions where we got people playing in Mural and talked them through the technology ahead of time. So that was our platinum service. And then for those that we kind of were happy to wing it a bit, we would just let it go on the day.
Okay, so a participant's knowledge of tech tools available. So if we're looking at Mural or Miro as a tool, maybe that could be in our control.
I was thinking sorry.
On the border, yeah.
I was thinking the bandwidth of participants. Some of it is when you schedule a meeting and making sure that, you know, depending on the type of meeting, it's the right time of day. Like, don't ask people to, you know, be like doing too much at the end of the day when they want to leave. Then you're going to get the people whose foot is at the door.
So how do you manage, so technical bandwidth, the internet bandwidth, maybe we have less control of, but potentially we can help, we have some control in managing bandwidth and engagement of participants or the energy of participants. Okay. Americo, what were you sharing? Oh, sorry, Americo. It sounds like we've got some bandwidth connectivity issues. We can't hear you.
Super meta that.
Yeah, indeed. Americo, unfortunately, we can't hear, but what you shared in the chat was that you have influence over some items like cats and tech. But no-show, the behavior, the tech specs is hard to even influence. I'm going to push back a little bit on that, Americo, because I do think as a facilitator, you do have some control over the behavior of the people in the room, because you help set the standards and the expectations for how people behave. And as facilitator, you can also ask people to leave the room. So let's talk about some approaches. So we talked a little bit about things that might be outside of our control. And on some of them, there is the potential that we have more influence than we were, than maybe we initially thought. Participants insisting on multitasking might be another one. Let's see what people shared were in our control. Having the wrong people in the room, something we can influence, not prepared the tech correctly, aligning diverse participants, planned agenda is not what participants expect, managing participation levels. I agree with all of these. Ooh, I like this. So someone's already solutioning in terms of how we can impact things. Remote facilitation challenges, setting up expectations for participants, aligning diverse participants, and misalignment in goals and outcomes is all within our control. So I love these. I do agree as well that these elements are in our control. So now what we would love you guys to do is to take a few of these ideas. So we are going to move what some of the items we said were in our control into the hexagons. And what we'd like you to do, and we'll give you 5 minutes to do it, is in the pink Post-its, in actions we can take, share some of the specific actions we can take in order to optimize these aspects of our facilitation or optimize these aspects of our meeting.
So how much time do we want to give them? And are we going, I think do we want to do breakout groups or do we want to just keep everyone in a big group?
We can keep everyone.
Yeah, I think it's cool
Yeah.
the way it's working. Also, like the kind of the flow and the energy of people asking questions. I'm just curious, whilst people are doing this activity, you sounds like you're fresh out of a big workshop today. What for you? What has been some of the observations you've had? Because it sounds like it was an in-person workshop. Would that be correct, Kandis, Diana?
Yes, it is.
Congratulations,
So
by the way. So what have you noticed? What bad behaviors or apocalypse tendencies have you noticed from this week or your recent?
I think a couple of the things that we have observed, because we're not running the entire thing, but we're observing and providing feedback, coaching, if if you may. I think what was interesting is that for the first 2 days, the person who was presenting had an agenda, but no time schedule. So people didn't know when things were going to end, when breaks were. And our understanding was the session was to go from 9 to 5 every day, but it ended at 4 on the first day, and then it ended at 3 on the second day. And then there was nothing to fill the time, and no one had anywhere to go. So I think those were the 2 pain points that we saw on Monday and Tuesday. And then today, what we saw were people who had a 400-page slide deck. And they had exercises, but it was their first time. And so never have a 400-page slide deck. And really, I think Kandis was repeatedly saying, why don't we give these guys a break?
Yeah.
And I think during lunch, Kandis did a fun exercise just to get the blood going again, the energy levels up again, because they were also eating lunch. And so those were some of the coaching that we provided based on what we saw. And there's 2 more days presentations from various people.
So from the so say for instance, for the activity, for the breakout energizer, what's your go-to energizer?
So it depends on what the objective was. Oh, Kandis, did you want to share?
Well, today our focus was on doing the Marshmallow Tower Challenge.
Oh my God.
And that was specifically because, is everybody aware of this exercise? Do you know what it is? So the idea that you give participants, you put them in teams, you give them 20 sticks of spaghetti, you give them a marshmallow and a meter of tape and a meter of twine, and you tell them build the highest freestanding structure that they can. And this is really an exercise around team dynamics and quickly understanding how teams work together. Are they self-organizing? Are there people in the group who immediately take control? Are there people who step back? Do they understand the importance of prototyping and iterating while they're in a process? And so this is a great exercise to understand the agility of teams. And what's really interesting about it was we have some great pictures from it. One group built a marshmallow tower that was literally 3 inches high, and the other one built one that was like 20 inches high, because they were a bit more experimental in their approach. So that can be a lot of fun. But we have, as Diana was saying, we have a lot of different stokes that we go to depending on where we are within the context of the session. So on the first day, for example, we might do an exercise like, who's your superhero? And it's a great way for people to introduce themselves, to introduce the kinds of people that inspire them. Sometimes people share, superheroes on the big screen, but often people share things like their mom or their dad, and then they share great stories about them. And that's just a great way to get introduced. Sometimes after lunch, we try to do more kinetic type activities. So we do things like come dance with me, where we give people a challenge and then we have them create a dance on the spot and then invite other people to join. So a great way to get movement and engagement going.
Yeah, but one thing you have to watch out for is when we were doing pre-interviews for a design sprint in Slovakia, when I did the interviews, I was like, no one here is going to dance with us. So we're not going to do anything. But then once they warmed up to us, and at the end of the design sprint, they shared that a lot of the people were in a band. The company did a summer talent show, and we were playing music and everyone was dancing around. So music is always a great way to get people energized. And sometimes you don't think it's going to work, but then it works
So
when
just
you want people to dance.
Walk us through that activity. So come dance with me. How to just set the scene for people, just so they understand.
Sure. So the way, so I'll jump in the middle. So everyone's in a circle, and you could even do this virtually, actually, right? Where I say, everyone dance who has a tattoo, and then I'll start dancing, and everyone who has a tattoo will start dancing. So you see everyone, or anyone who has a boat or loves boating, come dance with me. And then, so that's basically how it goes. And then you find commonalities. You get to make fun of each other because lots of people have weird, fun dances. And then you're like, oh my God, that person's an amazing dancer. I would have never thought that. So it is a fun kind of thing. All right. So we're happy to share some recommendations. And it does sound like some of this is relevant to what's in control and out of control. So I'm in the upper right, and I'll summon you guys all to me. So from a recommendation standpoint, I won't go through all of them based on time, but I'll highlight some of them, and your guys are welcome to reach out and ask us additional questions if you like. Just connect with us on LinkedIn. So when we were in the 75-person one room instead of the 3 rooms of 25, everyone was getting pretty intense over that week. And so one of the things that when we do face-to-face is we always have sticky mustaches, different types of mustaches on hand, and we put them out at every table. And the mustache break really helped lighten the mood. What was a pretty intense and hot, non-air conditioned day where we ran out of food and coffee, people put sticky mustaches on themselves, and it just helped them have a little laugh because they saw each other in a different way. And that really ties to the care package. You know, if you have a multi-day event, or even if you have a 2-hour event, having a care package and being kind of thoughtful about that. I know that's something you have to plan ahead of time, but always having that on hand and being able to mail something out, or Instacart, or whatever the remote delivery options, if anything, those are little fun things to do to lighten the mood. The other thing that I wanted to share, and EQ and mirroring is really helpful too, but for me, breaking things down, a lot of the times when we are in it and we are in work, we traditionally are in all day, 5-day workshops, whether we're face-to-face or 5-hour virtual workshops with 30-minute breaks, basically 1 hour with 30-minute breaks. It is helpful as a facilitator when people can't make decisions, when they're talking in circles, where they're not speaking at the same levels, which is a problem if we have like an IT person versus a business person versus a marketing person versus an executive. What Kandis and I do a lot of, and she's actually amazing at it, I'm pretty awful at it, but I try, and you can only get better through practice, is to help break things down. So summarize all the decisions that have been made and make sure everyone's aligned, write it down, put it up on the wall, or put it up on their mural board, or whatever, or write it down in Zoom and chat, and then think about all the things that you're trying to do and break them down systematically and reiterate it to everyone, right? So we do a lot of listening, and I think what you said was this, and make sure that everyone is in alignment and get clarification. So breaking things down really helps the churn. Summarizing and synthesizing is kind of an add-on to that, making sure that everyone understands, making sure that everyone is voting on things so that they understand this is where the direction that everyone is going towards. This is the alignment, building that consensus and commitment as you go through the workshop step by step. And then the last thing that, that I wanted to share is this was the year where, so Kandis and I tend to care a lot about our customers. We care a lot about the experience that we've designed for them in the workshops, but sometimes so much of what we do is out of our control. And I think the big lesson we learned this year was, it's not in your span of your control. It's not your accountability or responsibility. Let it go, right? And even Dan said this before we got started was, don't look in the past, just focus on the future, right? And focus on what you can. So those are some of the recommendations that we wanted to share. There's obviously